Traditional stories can come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, but they're generally about a mythical beast, a ghost. In other places beyond Gaeldom, witches, or historical events that people want to keep in folks' minds as a memory, and also as a way of passing on traditions of how certain passages of life should be carried out. So this afternoon I'll try and tell you some of those stories. Down in Phort Wemyss and Portnahaven, Orsay Island is just out from us, and the skyline is dominated by Orsay Lighthouse. But I'm going to take you back to a time before the lighthouse was there. And there was this beautiful green island that sat out from the villages. And on the island is a chapel, Orsay Chapel. And it's said that Columba came there, and that was the first place he set foot on when he left Ireland, but he couldn't stay because he could still see Donegal and the green hills of Ireland, so he moved on and ended up in Iona. But the folk in Phort Wemyss had the right to graze their cattle on Orsay Island, and that was really important because the clearances had driven them out of the main part of the island out to the edges. So to have this lush green contained island for their cows was brilliant. And they had a little shed, a little gaothach on the island, and someone would stay there and watch the cattle and make sure they were all right most of the summer. Morag's turn came about, and she was delighted to go because as a young girl with 6 younger brothers and sisters, to get out of the house and go and stay in the island was an absolute luxury. And she had with her some oatmeal and some cheese, and her mother would send over things in the boat to her to keep her going. She had plenty of milk, and her mother would send over eggs and fish, and she thought it was great. She had her own bed, and she had a fire to cook on, and she'd spent the whole summer there, and it was absolutely idyllic. She was never alone because she had her cows, and they were like her friends, and they all had names, and she knew them all. She knew where they grazed, she knew where they slept. It was brilliant. But the time was coming to an end, and soon the day would come where they would swim the cows back behind a boat over back to the villages. But between the island and the villages is the sound. It has a great tide rip through it that's very, very dangerous. And at the west end of the island is the coolest Naomh, and it boils and the waves come pouring in there and straight into Portnahaven Bay. And then of course behind is the Kettle and Corra, the whirlpool. When the tide and the wind are in the right direction, it rages and boils and you can hear it. It's almost like a jet engine going off. Well, it was one of those days for Morag. She knew as the darkening was coming down that nobody would be visiting her that night. It was too fierce. The coolest was white, the foam was coming up over the rocks, and all the time she could hear the Corra in the background. So she made sure the cows were all safe and lying down in the right place, and headed back to the bothy, to the gaothach, where she was going to get a roaring fire going and make sure she had something to eat and that she was in her bed fine and early. She set to with the fire, put a great pot on top of it, and she'd got water from the well earlier. She poured it in and she started to make herself some porridge. Porridge was thickening, and she thought, oh jings, I've forgotten to put in the salt. So she grabbed a handful of salt, and just as she got the salt into her hand, the door banged open. And there stood a man all dressed in black. Black woolen clothes and big black leather knee-length boots. He had a black beard and black hair, and his eyes were as green as could be, green as the grass on Orsay Island. Now Morag knew that there was no way any man could have crossed the Sound that night. No boat that was in Portnahaven or Phort Wemyss would have made it. She knew right away, deep in her heart, that this was a water horse, a Kelpie, a Yuggle. In fact, by the looks of him and the looks of his dress, he was the prince of the water horses and was known in other parts as the Naomh Calum Cille. She stood totally still for 1 minute, but thankfully she came to her senses and kept stirring the porridge with a ladle. And the water horse said to her, "What is your name?" And she said, "mì-shuaimhneile," which of course means me, myself. "Mì-shuaimhneile, that's a foolish name." And he took one step forward into the doorway. Now Morag took the ladle full of porridge and threw it at his face. Now had it been water, scalded as he would have been, the water would have run off, but the porridge was thick and sticky, and it caught on his face and his beard, and it burned him drastically. He screamed and screeched and fell back out into the darkness. Morag knew that this was her only chance, and she bolted straight out the door. Her fists clenched, she ran as fast as she could, and behind her in the wind and the rain she could hear other voices, the voices of the other Kelpies, the water horses, shouting at him, "Who hurt you? Who hurt you?" And he shouted back, "mì-shuaimhneile, mì-shuaimhneile, you fool, you fool, you've hurt yourself," they shouted back, which made him even more angry. And he ran round and round the bohan looking for Morag, but Morag was long gone, as Morag knew the island like the back of her hand, and she ran up towards the chapel and came to the big high dike, and there in the dike was the gateway with a metal gate across it. And just as she knew that she was there, the same as always, was Bessie the cow, the oldest cow and leader of the herd. And she knew that the most sheltered place in the whole island was this gateway. Morag dived in behind her, between the cow and the gate posts. So to all intents and purposes, Morag and Bessie were now on sacred ground. Morag said to Bessie in a quiet whisper, "Calum Cille, give me faith. Mackay of the Rins, give me strength. Bride, protect me. And the good Lord watch over us all." And she took the salt that was still clenched in her fist, and she drew a semicircle, a cane, from one gatepost round herself and Bessie into the other gatepost, and she crouched down and hid. It seemed as if the water horses, there was a great company of them, and they stamped and strode all over the island, and the cows were getting up and roaring and dancing and trying to get away, but Bessie stayed completely still. Morag doesn't know how long it took, but suddenly the wind started to drop, and she lay down closer to the nice warm cow whose breathing never changed, and slowly she fell asleep. When the daylight rose, Morag woke up, and she got up, and there was no sign of any water horses. In fact, there was no sign of anything other than her and Bessie. She got over the cow and walked down to the bohan, gingerly opening the door. The birds were eating the porridge that was on the doorstep. The ladle was lying on the floor where she dropped it, and there was a smell of burnt porridge from the pot that she had left, but there was no sign of the water horse. In fact, there was no sign of her cows either. She knew where they would be. They would be at the other side of the island at the well getting water. So off she went. No, they weren't there either. They were nowhere to be seen. for the poor cows had met the fate of being dragged by the Kelpies into the sea and were never seen again.